There's not a problem that I can't fix, because I can do it.
Yeah, baby, I like it.
Okay, welcome to another episode of Inhale Exhale, and I have a very, very special guest today. Alicia's here. Alicia, all I can say is that the time that we've spent together has just been just fantastic, and it's been like we've had some moments there, and you have been just, and I guess I've been saying this about a lot of the guests, but we've all been, I just encountered such helpful energy and just really like productive energy, through this whole process. And I felt like it was important to bring on those people, but then we've been lacking the female energy. And so I felt like it was so important to bring you on and we could talk a little bit about, and see, the guests have already kind of seen, we've talked about manufacturing already. It'd be awesome to hear it from your point of view. Yeah. So let's first talk about who you are and how we got to this point right now. Because I know that your story started close to 20 years ago. It seemed like it was like, I think saw in the bio, it said like 2000, kind of when you started.
Yeah.
Well, let's start there, and then we'll work our way up.
So I'm an herbalist.
Okay.
So I started making products, over 20 years ago. Probably longer than that, but, just officially. Making remedies for people for a lot of different things, cannabis being one. I would make, salves, tinctures, things like that. Folks would just, give me trim or like, whatever. And I would turn it into topicals, be able to give that to like elders or whoever who was just kind of, people who just needed it. So from like that herbalism perspective, is kind of how my involvement in cannabis began. Over time, I got better with dosing and preparing and, labeling and making sure, directions were really clear for people. And that really helped when recreational cannabis became a thing, because I was like, okay, it should be pretty easy to take these skills, making all these different kinds of products, teas, honeys, elixirs, and tinctures and all kinds of things. And, being able to bring it to a market that could benefit from cannabis in all those different
kind of
ways.
like a hobby that kind of turned into what it is now?
I would call it's a bit more of a hobby. It's kind of part of my purpose in life.
Yeah.
Like I'm a medicine carrier, and so
Right.
being having a good understanding of plants and how they develop and what climates they thrive in, and what kind of outputs that's going to affect as far as like medicine goes. So that's the perspective that I came from, and cannabis is amazing. It's an amazing booster to other herbal remedies, but it's also amazing on its own and all the different ways that it's produced. So manufacturing was just a natural fit. Like
Right.
when legalization happened, it was like, okay, this seems like the most appropriate place for me to insert my skill set, my
Right.
ideologies about healing with cannabis and all of that into one thing. So that's how I got into manufacturing in general. So it started a long time ago, yeah.
Right.
So you obviously mixed obviously certain strands with different type of concoction that you're trying to produce. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. Is that in particular the honey that you have?
Is it a particular strain?
You have honey. You have the honey.
Yeah, I
Correct?
brought the
Yes.
honey
Okay, I
in.
remember. Yes.
Yeah. So it's a Bay Area honey blend with cinnamon, turmeric, and ginger infused into it, and a hybrid blend of flower. It seems like hybrids work really well for a large spectrum of people, so I chose a
Right.
blend for
Okay.
this one. But I am looking forward to doing more strain specific, more kind of mood specific blends with different terpene profiles and
How do you
a lot of
choose
things.
between different products that you select in order to make your products? Do you have a certain profile of certain type of plant matter that you use, or is there just, I just take what I get and then I make it into whatever I make it into? How does that work?
I am aware of like the terpene profiles
Yeah.
in different plants in order to like not make it overwhelming to something like the spiced honey. But definitely with other items, because I want the spices to be more
Sure.
in alignment with that. So of course, like a terpene that's more spicy would go well with something like that versus some of you don't want to waste like the fruity notes and
Sure.
in like a different starting plant matter. But yeah, it definitely matters, and I get, it is part of the selection process, but I think when it gets to more like, like the delicate, like citrus honeys and things like that, you know what I mean? It's going to become more of a thing for me. Um,
And as you can see, she's talking specifics and just talking about just even the notes and all that, just different flavors and tastes, which is important, I'm sure, in your product.
oh yeah, of course. Of course, yeah, yeah. Every little thing matters, I think, especially like, I'm a craft cannabis kind of, maker, and being able to make things that people ultimately are going to enjoy,
Right.
fully.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, not just throwing things away. Like, I
Right.
don't know if y'all ever had like an old school edible with like plant parts
Yeah,
in it.
still,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's
right,
like,
Right.
oh, nobody really cared about this,
Sure.
Yeah, so I didn't want to be someone who's like, I just want to get you high. Like, I want you to have a good experience too. I want you to enjoy this. I want you to feel like you can share it. And, I want, to be something that you would like to come back to and revisit.
I've noticed that, like, because edibles, I mean, we've always had, like, just black market edibles and people making, like, those Rice Krispie squares and all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff,
Yeah.
throughout the days. But as the edibles became more popular and it became more mainstream, you've seen all these different wide ranges of products. And the trick usually in the beginning was that they always tasted really bad. Like they would come up with stuff and it would just taste too much like weed. And so now though, we're getting products that taste really good. You can barely taste the weed, and that's both good and bad because you're getting you eat those candies and you just be eating them like nom, 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 nom. You're not even thinking that you're eating
Yeah.
cannabis. Next thing you know, you sideways.
Yeah.
So that's the bad part about the fact that they're getting so good with
Yeah.
technology, and it's crazy is one of the underlying themes of this show is innovation and technology
Yeah.
and creativity, really. And all of these things are kind of rooted in that. And so it's just cool to hear and to see technology and creativity and innovation all kind of working together, because then you see products that
Yeah.
because man, whatever we can think is what we can do now.
Yeah.
Especially with the technology where they're being able to make just about anything.
Yeah.
And you just chose honey. I'm sure you've experimented with a lot of other different things. Is there any particular reason why honey right now? I know obviously honey you can put it in so many different things. It's so
Yeah.
easy to use. Is that kind of why you chose honey, or is it
Well,
more? Is it deeper than that?
I guess it's deeper. One to have I make a lot of different products, so to make something in the market that doesn't exist yet,
Yeah.
so like for the innovation aspect,
Right.
like how do you make something stand apart? Like I make a whole bunch of different tinctures, I make topicals, I make all these different things. What's going to stand apart in this particular marketplace? And honey is something that people do add to a lot of different things.
Sure.
You add it to drinks. I'm a big tea drinker. I drink tea every day.
Drinking in my coffee.
Right, yeah. So I use honey in things all the time,
Right.
every day. Like it's an everyday thing
Right.
for me. So it felt natural to put the cannabis in it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like that's also an everyday, part of my well-being routine.
Right.
The turmeric, the ginger, the cinnamon, all those things. I wanted to make a baseline elixir that could help people kind of harmonize themselves throughout the day. That's a reason why a lot of people turn to cannabis in the first place. Whether it's like a small dose or a larger dose or whatever.
Right.
But you want to find some type of like a nice baseline. I know that's what I enjoy about cannabis. So I'm not, just feeling ways that I don't want to feel.
Right? No,
So
no,
it's a
right.
baseline product.
Absolutely.
Like here's something. Let me just get my day started right.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or like at the end of the day, let me close it out and put a period at the end of this
Right.
day. Have something nice and warm and cozy and relax and drift off. And get ready for the next day. So that's kind of why I did it. I wanted balance and harmony to be a staple in everyone's life. Everyone who chooses to partake in cannabis. I wanted that to be just a baseline premise to everything else that I build.
Right.
Yeah, interestingly enough, as you mentioned though, like with the innovation and the technology though, it's you think of all this like kind of millennial things, but it's so old school,
Yeah, it
So
is.
simplistic,
So,
right?
Yeah.
so simple, so simplicity.
It's like a cyclical thing.
No, absolutely. And interestingly enough, I'm surprised. Like literally, you're the only herbalist that I've met that's in this whole space and all this time that actually is doing the merging these together though. That's
Yeah.
fusing, or I should say, together though. That's just both because it makes sense.
I really love
Absolutely.
plants. I really love plants. I really love the way that they interact with our body and the potential that is held within a plant like cannabis. Just legalization is still pretty new.
Right.
So that means that research is still pretty new
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
The
You know what I
lack,
mean?
lack of research. You actually brought that up in one of the podcasts not too long ago when you was talking about how there's not a collective. First of all, there's not a collective governing
Right, agency.
facility or agency for cannabis, right? So we're not funneling tremendous amounts of money into cannabis research to really find out how it works. We're doing it individually, but there's no government agencies putting type of money into it. So until that happens,
Yeah.
we're limited on all the different things that we can really see as remarkable for this particular plant.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, this is your girl Mari Diane, and we are here with Alicia at the manufacturing facility. All right, let's go. We have a lot to show you guys.
This is where the magic is made. It's where things are mixed,
Okay.
are packaged, are prepared. It's a manufacturing space. So actually, after things are manufactured, they're transferred through a distributor to a laboratory where it's compliance tested. So a laboratory is a different space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So these machines do let us know.
Yeah, so the honey is taken, it's poured into here, it's mixed with the spices that we use in our blend as well as our cannabis. It is heated, it's mixed, it's homogenized and everything. It deposits what we need into the jar, the package, whatever. There you go.
Okay.
There's our jar. That's a 100 milligram jar of the spiced honey. And then go ahead, flip the package around one. And the package is a 10 milligram single serve packet of the honey. Yeah, exactly. So you don't need too much machinery. Luckily for this particular product. Yeah.
Okay.
But there are many other products that are produced.
Where can
here.
we find your product?
So if you follow the Oakland Cannabis Trail, you can find our product on pretty much all of the dispensaries on there. So that's Rosemary Jane by the lake, Ivy Hill, which used to be the old Parkway Theater, rooted in the 510 up on Telegraph. And soon, we're hoping to have the jars in many more spaces. So just keep an eye out, follow our website, www.apothecary.com. And, we'll always update on where we have new retailers.
All right, there you have it. Thank you so much, Alicia.
Yeah, I think UCLA is doing something right now. They're they're doing
Nice.
some type of studies or something, but it's still not on a national scale or it's obviously still a university.
I'm definitely going to check it out. That's the kind of stuff that I love,
Right.
and just like the possibilities that exist in the cannabis sector. I don't have like a huge laboratory or anything like that, but I would love to have something like
That's
that.
a great segue actually, because we were talking about the fact that there's two type of manufacturing licenses. There is the volatile and there's the non-volatile, and so you have a non-volatile license,
Yes.
right, to be able to make edibles and all those types of things. Can you explain a little bit? First, the name of your brand is very unique. I think people need to understand where you came up with that. I'm not even going to try this apothecary.
Apothecary. Ma'at Apothecary.
Yeah, I have a hard time pronouncing it.
It's very simple, yeah.
And then Ma, and then it has a lot of Egyptian symbolism in the Ma,
Yes,
right? Can you
yes.
explain a little bit on
Absolutely.
that? Yeah.
So, again, like turning around to why I created the spiced honey product in the first place was for like that balanced and harmonious kind of thread throughout our days, and Ma'at is an Egyptian deity. She's a goddess that represents balance and harmony, reciprocity, justice, all these different things that have been themes in my existence in the cannabis industry. And so that's Ma'at, like Ma'at is the force that keeps our planet suspended out in space. You know what I mean? That regulates our body's temperatures and our breathing and all these kinds of things that we don't have conscious control over.
Right.
And so that is Ma'atian energy. And an apothecary is where people would go to get all of their medicines and herbs and elixirs and remedies before we had pharmacies, before they created pharmacies. So that was a very, again, like that cycle and coming back to things that are natural. People knew where to go to find to get the balance and harmony in their bodies back restored. And so yeah, it just represented like a cyclical kind of a cycle for me that we're in this kind of ancient futuristic space, sort of existing.
I just had a conversation with a brother, and just kind of me and him actually just talked about sports and cannabis. And one of the things that kept coming up is, in order to be great at anything, you have to be obsessed with it almost. And and when I'm listening to you, and you said you love plants, no, you are obsessed with plants. I could tell that you are obsessed with the search for the knowledge, obsessed with trying to understand, and so I was talking to a brother about art, and he was saying, a really good artist has to be obsessed with it. Like you have to be obsessed with your craft, just like with this brother becoming a world champion in his field. You had to be obsessed with it, in order to get to that. And so one of the things that's very important that I hope that a lot of people take from watching these shows, and they see people and they see the testimonials, is that we've all put in a lot of work in educating ourselves. And I was going to ask you, it's like, well, how does someone know the things that you know? There's no curriculum for this really, like as far as like for the cannabis realm and sector, and how it all kind of correlates with each other. I guess you kind of have to research this, and
You have to be curious.
did anybody
Very
did you
curious.
have any mentors? Anybody kind of like direct you on
my
this?
grandmas,
Right.
who instilled the base knowledge that like, some of these plants are really helpful. You should pay attention.
Right.
If it's the herb, if it's the
Right.
the berry, if it's the leaves versus the flower, or if it's the seeds. So just be curious and pay attention.
Sure.
And so I would say that's the baseline to where my knowledge came from. But no, there was
keep
no
hearing
institution.
And I keep hearing the plant just kind of speaks to you anyway.
Like George Washington Carver is one of my idols. He's clearly a medicine man, whether he got bestowed that title from anybody or not. But I'll give it to him. He's a medicine man. He looked at plants differently than other people. He noticed what was happening. If there was like a patch of citronella or lemongrass over by a certain tree, and and the mosquitoes weren't over there when they were around like everything else. That's information, and so if you're in tune enough to pick up on that information, then you start capturing it, you start replicating it, you start paying attention and being curious about other
That's
things.
dope. That's
Yeah.
dope. What you just said.
That's how I learned, because there's no institution.
Right.
I mean, there's like Oakster
Not
Band
yet
now, but I
anyway.
don't know if they teach what.
Not yet. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's part of the reason why we have to push for, decriminalization and legalization, so that we can get,
Yeah.
so that it can take the next step. And because this is stuff that brothers and sisters can take to build their own generational wealth. Just by understanding it and pursuing the knowledge that goes along with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So your product is pretty niche, isn't it? Like I mean, yeah, it's not too many. Like so, like I said, I haven't seen anybody in that space. Is there a particular like demographic that like is it like older women? Is it like athletes, or is it that you've noticed that normally?
I'm seeing the base demographic is mostly like 18 to 55 women primarily. People who enjoy tea typically. The philosophy that I have in my mind is kind of like the same niche market that the product lands in.
Right.
People who are looking for a little intentional time during their day, you know what I mean, who like to maybe sit down and make something, whether it's a honey blunt or, but people who like to savor a period of time throughout their day. That tends to be the market, more wellness oriented. There are athletes who do enjoy it though, because of all the inflammatory actions of the different herbs, it really helps with their recovery. So before and after workouts, I know folks who consume the honey, maybe like a piece of like a piece of toast or something like that. On that grown up bread, the grown up bread with like lots of protein and lots of seeds and everything in it. Nice toast with some honey on there. So it helps with the recovery process. You know what I mean? They're not as sore. They're not, or they bounce back quicker.
Sure.
Yeah, the soreness is minimal.
I had watched something that was maybe about a couple of weeks ago, and it was someone that had he said he was dealing with pain, all through the day, and the way that he helped was through cannabis. But he wouldn't just do the same thing. He had different during the day. He'll have his
Absolutely.
he didn't have honey, so he made me get some of that. But he had different. He had tinctures. He had sometimes he didn't want to smoke. He had edibles. But he said it literally helped him like sustain. So just knowing that it's an alternative to even with honey, that's definitely awesome.
And layering it as well too. I think that's what he's doing, right? He's layering. He can smoke it. He can use it topically. He can use it edibly.
Right.
He's layering it, so then you can different delivery methods deliver different outcomes for folks who are utilizing it. So that's really smart, so that you're not on one particular path.
Yeah, and that you can kind of plateau, sort of, I guess, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah. So you have different avenues of being able to find that balance.
Right. I have a question that's more unique towards some of the female viewers and listeners. What would you say is, some of the obstacles that you've encountered as being a black entrepreneur, a female black entrepreneur in cannabis? Is there any unique dynamics with that? We've had a conversation with Reese, and we talked a little bit about that. I mean, it's a white male-dominated industry for the most part, but I can imagine that, the black and brown entrepreneurs, we're all kind of grouped together, so it's not really any different. But I was just wondering what your interactions have been, or if there have been any real challenges with that aspect.
Yeah, definitely a lot of the same themes. I'm going to call it a superpower for these purposes, though, which is the unexpected card. You know what I mean? I unexpectedly show up at places where folks don't expect to see people like me.
Right.
So I land.
Isn't that a wonderful thing?
It is. So I call it a superpower because sometimes people be like, or they shade you somewhere, kind of, push you aside. And they're like, how did you get here?
Right. But I'm here.
Yeah. So I consider it a superpower, though. And hopefully people are learning something from that. That just because the opportunities are not as, maybe prominent, we still land where we're supposed to land. And a lot of that is divinely guided. So there's that. But yeah, definitely a lot of the same themes. I think the feminine vibe isn't always necessarily like a vibe for male dominated spaces though. So that being said, sometimes you don't hear certain, moves that are being made and things like that. So but it's understandable. It makes sense, folks gravitate and pull toward their different their different dynamics, and that's cool.
Right,
I think that whatever's supposed to happen though is going to happen. So
True.
Yeah, baby, I like it.
On the next episode of Inhale Exhale, we sit down on the couch with Carlton Williams as he breaks down cultivation.